I just record.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
And I go about it, and then we just get comfortable because it is what it is.
Yeah.
Story time. We've known each other for quite a while. I don't really know you that well, though. You seem to know more about me than I know about you.
Yeah.
And there's something that seems to be hidden inside of you. There's a story to be told.
Yeah.
That's probably why you're sitting here today.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me for sure. It's a skill set I learned a long time ago, and maybe it's not a skill set. It's when someone's wounded or has had a lot of not like intimate relationships, but just relationships with people in general over time. Sometimes you end up being guarded, unintentionally. It's like subconscious, that you're guarded. But a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. This is just talk about other people, not really about yourself. So over the years, I've learned to not really talk much about me. I try to focus on other people.
That's really awesome. And at the same time, where do you have your chance to talk about you?
I don't usually.
You don't?
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Well, until recently, being like the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's been fine. The word fine. It's not been great. It's not been good. It's been fine. I kind of turn my mind off to those things usually, but the last few weeks it's been pretty heavy. Trying to deal, with everyone else and myself. So
yeah. So I'm just grateful that you're here today.
Yeah, me too.
And it gives you an opportunity to share your story, talk about you, because you've been there. I've known you, and you've always asked about me, and I was like, I noticed something. Never really got a chance to ask about you, because the whole time you were asking about me. Tell me your story, because you brought up a little bit of there's some trauma, there's some loss, right?
Oh yeah, plenty. Sure. Well, I do you want the 31 years or the 10 years?
Which one do you feel guided to?
I don't know. It's funny that the 10 years is almost longer than the entire 31 years. But no, like long story short, I'm from a different country originally. Yeah, New Jersey. You ever heard of it?
A different country. You're funny. Jersey.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And for those who have been, they understand, right? It's totally different. I grew up there, 20 years there, and really amazing. Like hindsight being 2020, I didn't always enjoy it at the time, but hindsight being 2020, I grew up with an amazing family. I'm very grateful, very blessed. With the way I grew up, because so many people say that their origin story is in poverty and then this and that. I didn't really knowingly grow up that way. I did. I just didn't know it at the time. My parents were really good at not letting my sister and I see that. Only until maybe about 7 years ago, when I started managing their money, did I realize all the actual sacrifices they made for us. I don't think people understand what parents do for their kids. It's amazing me being in that role now, right? But but just childhood of, I guess, my mom was always there, my dad was always working. He wanted to be there. He was just always working, right? And he came to every sporting game, but he did his best to be there outside of that, but really the trauma, if you will, just in fact, the way I'm wired, Angela, is because of how things went in school. I used to be the fat kid that everyone used to pick on, right? And it was really rough. Some of the things that were done back then are like illegal today. Some just really bad stuff that I've largely either made peace with or just put out of my mind because it don't serve anybody to revisit, right? But I think that horrifying experience for like first grade through like my junior year of high school um, shaped my need to make other people feel special.
Mm.
Because it was a pretty horrifying experience, really really hard, you know. And funny now, I actually managed money for some of those bullies. Yeah, it's really funny. But again, I can largely compartmentalize. I can put that stuff out of my mind and focus on what's important now, right? But um, you know, growing up, I always wanted to be somebody. I really wanted to be somebody important. Really wanted to make an impact. Really wanted to do something special, because I felt like I wasn't special. You know, I got involved with various communities pretty early on. Martial arts community. I don't know how to fight. Otherwise, I was going to be in really bad shape in school. Um, you know, uh, game. When I was growing up, video games started to become pretty popular. So got involved in some gaming communities, which was nice because they didn't really see what you look like, so they didn't really have anything to pick on, right? They accepted you for who you were, and just all of my positive experiences were outside of school. And spent 20 years in New Jersey. I graduated high school in 2011, and I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be a police officer and fight for those people that couldn't fight for themselves. And again, it just kind of gets tied back to how I grew up, right? Um, and the way that it works in New Jersey is that you, out of high school, if you're going to go work in a city, you don't need a degree, but you do have to pass civil service. You have to go to the police academy, and then you have to wait for a department to pick you up. And that could take up to 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So you go, get a job somewhere. Maybe you become a security guard, or maybe you work somewhere else while you're waiting for the call. And so I was just working at a local grocery store. I was running a couple of their locations. I was a regional manager, and I had an opportunity to get into law enforcement, but I got hurt. So I couldn't keep pursuing it. And that was pretty devastating, because it's like the one thing that I wanted more than anything, and I couldn't do it. But you have to be able to pass a physical test, and I gotten hurt pretty bad, so I just wasn't able to pursue it. But while I was recovering, my parents had been pushing me to go to college for a long time. My dad didn't even finish high school, and um, my mom graduated from college, but it took her a long time to do it. And so they pushed me to go to school, and I ended up taking a just out of the blue economics class, and I kind of fell in love with the way that kind of stuff works. And I figured, well, if I can't help people physically, I can help them financially, right? And so that's really how I ended up here in Houston. Is that it was a two-part thing. One, I had met a girl that lived in Houston, and two, I wanted to study, but all the colleges in New Jersey, I literally spent over $1,000 on college applications.
Wow.
Yeah. But nobody wanted me. My GPA was atrocious, right? I was planning on being a cop, not going to college, right? And so um, nobody in New Jersey wanted me. I only had one or two classes that I showed up for in community college, right? So I was working full time. So, but the university, so I met the girl, and we had started talking about 3 or 4 months that we were kind of just doing some long distance stuff, and I'd come down here, she'd come up there, and she just asked me one day, she said, "Have you ever thought about going to school down here in Houston?" And I said, "Me? No, fuck it. I'm Italian from New Jersey. Like, we don't, what? No, I'm going to die up here. Like, or retire to Florida like all the other Italians do, But, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I know, it's so bad. Somebody's going to give me hate for that, right? But, no, excuse me. I applied to Texas A&M, to UT, and to University of Houston. And true story, UT didn't even respond to me. A&M at least gave me the courtesy of a phone call, but the lady at the her name is Teresa. I don't remember her last name, but the lady at the admissions office literally laughed at me on the phone. And she wasn't trying to be rude. I guess she was just shocked that I had the audacity to apply. I had like a 2.4 GPA. Like,
Oh wow.
excuse me. I think it's like a straight like C and D average. Like it's terrible. And but UH, the lady from the admissions office called me. She's like, I was looking at your college transcript. Sorry, it's the wrong pipe. Looking at your college transcript, and it's terrible. Like I'm just being real with you. It's just terrible. But I also see that you work full time, like overnight, and you would try to go into law enforcement, got hurt. I'm looking at everything, and I just need to know why you think it makes sense for us to give you a shot. And it's kind of the first time somebody gave me a chance. So after we talked, about about a month later, I got my acceptance letter, which is great. So that's kind of how I ended up down here.
That's really awesome.
Excuse me.
Well, it's awesome that she took the moment to actually read and see your story in your timeline, because a lot of people don't even. They just look at the number and then go through that sequence.
That's right. Yeah, very few people, I think, dissect who people are as people. Excuse me.
I think even medical, the medical profession, medical field, same thing. It's they don't look at us as a whole. They look at us at just whatever specialty.
Yeah.
And there's more to us than just that part, that piece.
I think people are very different than who they are on paper.
For sure.
Yeah. But I ended up coming down here, and I tell you what, Andrew, it's funny. After my first month in Houston, you couldn't pay me to move back. Yeah, you couldn't pay me to move back. I love it down here. There's freedom. There's very little taxes, comparatively speaking. The people are just as aggressive, which is great. So it feels like I'm at home. But you've never heard of Northern hospitality, right? No, you know Southern hospitality, but it's Northern hostility. I'll tell you, this is a true story. Yes. My first week in Houston, I was living in the Galleria at the time, an apartment complex. I've never not had a laundry like thing in my house. Like I've never had to go to a facility. And I moved like an idiot in the Houston heat. It was the end of May when I moved, 2014 when I moved, and so I was agitated because it was hot as hell, and I was sticking in places I'm not used to stay. It was gross. And I'm doing laundry, so I'm carrying my laundry from my apartment, all the way to the other side of the damn complex where the laundry unit is. So I was already pissed off. I was fresh off the boat. Right? I was 1 week down here, so I still have my New Jersey attitude and all that stuff. Wow. And I'm walking down the path to the laundry facility, and I see this dude in a 3-piece suit who's an idiot for wearing a 3-piece suit. Anyway, as I'm wearing a suit right now, but where he's walking down the path with my the property manager, and they step onto the grass to let me pass. And I didn't even look at him, but the guy says, "Hey, sir, how are you today?" I didn't even look at him. I just straight up said, "What the fuck's it to you? How I'm doing? Get out of my way," And that's the attitude of the Northeast. It's just, what you don't care about me. Get out of my way. Why are you bothering me? Go mind your business. And I think that, by the way, his jaw hit the ground. Like I could see it from the back, like the eyes in the back of my head. I knew his jaw just hit the ground. I found out like a day later that he owned the complex, which was great. It was real great.
Oh, wow.
But I think that hardness, is something that a lot of people have, but and I don't want to say that the Northeast has got this chip on their shoulder, but that's the mantra of what it is up there. It's like no one cares, just it is what it is, and so I carried that chip on my shoulder for a very long time. It took a long time for that to come off my plate, But yeah, no, I went to college, down here. I made some friends, and it was just kind of tossing and turning with what I ended up, what I wanted to do. I was one of those few people, Angela, that got their dream job while in college. I was very lucky. What I thought was my dream job in college, I was very lucky. And, I was crunching numbers on the spreadsheet with nobody around me, no people just talk to a computer. Totally opposite from what I do now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a natural introvert. Did you know that? I'm not a natural people person.
Um, I'm starting to figure out the pattern that people who seem like they're extroverts are
Mhm.
actually introverts.
Super introverted.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super introvert. Like nothing would make me happier than sitting in a room by myself, nobody around. Maybe I'm married to the hottest teacher in Katie, so maybe her, my beautiful daughter.
Is
Um,
she the same one that you dated?
no, no, no,
Okay.
no, no, no. We're gonna do that in a second. But Yeah, no, I'm a super introvert. So it was work for me to make friends in college. I had to put myself, well, I was told that if I didn't get involved in organizations, companies wouldn't want to hire me. I was told if I didn't, go get a job that companies after I graduate wouldn't want, like not Chick-fil-A, but like a job, companies wouldn't want to hire me. Right. So I out of necessity, I went
Mhm.
and put myself out there but I ended up working at this data job, and I started two different organizations, which are still thriving at the University of Houston today. I was a founding member of the Economic Society, and on the first board of the International Students Organization. And funny because I was the only non-international student on the.
Wow.
Anyway,
Well, you said you're from another country.
yeah, that's right. That's right. And they gave me credit for being from New Jersey. That's right. That's right. That's right. But the whole time of school, it's just kind of work, work, work. I didn't have that college experience, if you will. I've never been to a college party. I literally was always where I worked full time while in school as a full time student, and I ended up as my senior year. No, it was I'm sorry, it was my sophomore year, and I wanted to figure out what my career was going to be. And so I went to the career fair, but I was there late. I had to work, and I had to sneak in. It was the business school's career fair. I didn't go to the business school, so I had to sneak into it. So
Mhm.
almost everyone had already packed up. And I want you to picture. Have you ever seen the movie Goodfellas or Casino or any of those mob movies?
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you know the actor Joe Pesci?
I think.
He plays Harry in Home Alone.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you've never seen him in those mob movies. It's okay. Go look him
Mhm.
up. Go look up Joe Pesci Goodfellas later, and that way you see what I mean. I used to look like that. I used to have a big old pushback Italian afro, and I used to always dress really really sharp, and so I looked like a mafia guy. That's what I looked like. And so I'm walking through. I'll show you a picture on my phone later. I was walking through this career fair and almost everybody had packed up and left already. And one guy stops me and goes, "Hey, you Italian from New York?" And I'm looking at him like, "Who wants to know?" Like with that same attitude. And he goes, "All right, let's talk." He says, he just asked me. He said, "You ever thought about selling insurance?" I said, "No, no, because one, people from where I'm from, we don't sell things, and also people from where I'm from, we don't buy insurance." You know, and he said, "Good, you're gonna be perfect then. You're gonna be perfect." And so he was a regional manager for the company Aflac, and so they recruited me to start working part time with
Mhm.
them. While I had my full time job, and I could do it. I didn't enjoy it. There's a lot of cold calling. I wasn't a salesperson. I wasn't a people person, but I liked making money. And my data job was good because it was my career experience. But then I had this little sales thing on the side to make extra money. And it got to the point where I was making more money selling insurance than I was at my job. And I had a really interesting moment, Angela. I think this ties so well into the first 20 years of my life. Um, I hadn't seen my family for over a year at this point, and I wanted to go see them for Christmas. This was December of 2016. Um, I hadn't seen them, and,
Mhm.
and I bought plane tickets, and then I had been at my job now for 2.5 years, this data job, and we always worked on the 22nd of December. We were off the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, back on the 26th, right?
Mhm.
And so I figured that was my window to go home. I go to my boss and say, "Hey Jack, listen, I need. Just want to let you know I'm gonna be coming in about 30 minutes late on the 26th. I got this flight. I haven't seen my parents in over a year. I'm gonna go home. I'll still be here on the 22nd, but I'm going to be like maybe 34. I'm going to come straight from the airport, ready to go. And he looks at me for a second. He says, John, that's great. I think it's great that you want to go see your parents. Here's the problem, though. I have a very big ticket client coming in on Christmas Eve. It's the only time they can meet. I need you here at the office to onboard them. And this is what he said to me. He says, John, if you work really hard for Christmas, I'll take my wife on a cruise for New Year's.
Ouch.
Yeah, let that sink in for a second. If you work hard for Christmas, I'll take my wife on a cruise. And I thought he was joking. He was dead serious. And so I needed the job at the time. I was paying all my own bills, so I needed that job. And I hadn't felt confident enough yet to leave and do be in sales full time. But in my head something shifted. I said, okay, I see how it is. It's just a different kind. I just traded a different kind of bully. Think about how many people, Angela, get bullied every day by their boss, or by a superior coworker, and they feel like they don't have a choice, but they just take it because they need the job.
Yes.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and that's what I felt at the time. But something in me shifted, which was, okay, I understand now. If I'm not going to be valued, really valued in a job, I'm going to have to do something where I own it. As scary as that is, I'm going to have to do something where I own it. And it was hard for me, Angela, because I didn't have a lot of confidence. I had 25 years of getting beaten up, saying I'm worthless. I don't have what it takes.
So who's beating you up?
Well, it was bullies in school, physically and verbally. After that, it was professors in college. That my work wasn't good enough. I wasn't smart enough. And I had a professor light one of my papers on fire before.
In front of your face?
In front of my face, because I had an opposing viewpoint of her. Funny enough, I also manage her money now, which is great. It's very cathartic, some of these things that happen.
I mean, I bet you have a good smile on your face.
I was very professional. I did not stick it to her. She didn't know. I didn't know I was going over her house, and she didn't know I was coming. I met her husband through referrals, through BNI. Actually, I met her husband. And he was talking to me. He's like, babe, this guy is so smart. He's coming out of the house. He's going to change everything for us. And then I walk in. I'm like, oh shit.
So you both recognize one another.
Oh yeah, immediately. Oh, and I was. It was kind of like one of those tongue-in-cheek moments where it's like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to be super respectful, super nice, like it never happened.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I right after graduation, I was still with that girl that I had moved to Texas for. We were together for 5, almost 6 years.
Oh wow!
And we had just graduated. In July 27 or June, July 2017, we both graduated. She went to A&M, by the way. So she graduated A&M, I graduated UH, and right after graduation, I met through a friend of a friend, a broker at the company that I now represent, right? And he was talking to me. He's like, "Look, you're working at this data job that you hate, and you're selling insurance part time already." Side note, just imagine a dude that looks like a mafia guy knocking on your door, asking if you want to buy accident insurance or disability insurance. It's like, oh, you don't need the insurance? Okay, I'm going to come back later and give you a reason for the insurance, right? Yeah, right. It's so bad.
Well, that's what my mind was thinking. I was like,
no, it's okay.
You already saw. You already saw.
No, it's okay. That was my sales pitch. It was a joke, of course, but that was part of my pitch. And I sold a lot of business doing because it's funny.
It is
playing into the stereotype.
Breaks the ice.
Yeah, but Anyway, we graduate. He's like, look, you got this thing that you don't like. It's paying your bills. You're already selling insurance. Why don't you just come partner with me? Sell insurance, do investments, do financial stuff. And if you give it 6 to 8 months, you'll make enough money to leave your job. You won't have to keep hammering the phones. You'll have some recurring income. Why don't you just give it a shot? And I said, all right, that's fair. about 6 months in, I'm starting to get a little bit of traction here in Houston. Remember, I'm not from here, so I only know a handful of people I went to college with. I don't really know anyone else. And my girlfriend at the time, she said, "Hey, listen, I just landed my dream job in California." I said, "That's awesome, great." She goes, "No, no, no, dummy, I want you to come with me. We've been dating for 5, almost 6 years. You already moved to Texas. There's nothing keeping you here. Let's just go to California." And I say to myself, all right. Now, unpacking that, I had so much attachment because she was the only person that's ever validated me at the time, right? The only person that ever, really, again, at the time, accepted me for who I was and all that kind of stuff. Or at least that's what I thought, right? So I had this puppy dog attachment, and so I said, okay. So I sold everything I had here, used all of my savings to move to California. And Rancho Cucamonga, California, it's a real place. I didn't think it was real when she said it. It's a real place. It's in between Los Angeles and San Bernardino off of I-10.
Wow.
Yeah, literally you just get on I-10 and go straight there. It's about 27-hour drive. Yeah. And I called up my broker, by the way. His name is David. I said, hey, David, I'm moving to California. He goes, that's great. I've always wanted an office out there. Let's do it. But he prepared me to say, look, dude, you already don't know that many people here in Houston. You're getting this thing off the ground here. You don't know a soul out there. So you need to understand that it's going to be a grind. Like you're going to have to set the right expectations with your girlfriend that like you'll try to, you'll find a little part-time job, but like you're going to have to really, you're going to have to door knock. You're going to have to cold call. You're going to have to talk to strangers everywhere you go and really get this thing moving. And so her and I had that conversation, and she said, "Hey, don't worry about it. I'll be making like 150 a year. I got it. It's going to be fine." But realize 150 a year in California is like 30 in Texas. It's not. It's nothing, right? Especially not when you're in a nice area, And so about 2-3 months in, things got a little tough. It was, "Hey, are you? Is this going to work out?" I couldn't. I was having a hard time getting my license transferred out to California. Back then, the laws were different, the rules were different. I was having a hard time getting my license transferred out there, so I was doing odds and ends types jobs, little construction work here and there, deliveries here and there, just little things, to at least pay, a portion of the bills, But about 4 months into us living in California together, things changed, and I didn't pick up on it at first, but it's like the communication became different. I don't know how to describe it other than almost like a boss employee relationship. It was, kind of, it stopped being spouse communication. You understand? I think you know the difference. Like I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But the intimacy stopped. The playfulness stopped. The communication honestly stopped. And it became I don't really want to be around you thing.
Oh wow.
And I think that's just the stress of being an almost solo income house, right? And like again, looking back at it, I don't blame her at all for that reaction. Even though we discussed it ahead of time, and I was bringing in some money, but we're also in a completely new place after 5 months. It doesn't, and my licenses still hadn't transferred. It's very hard to make an income in my specific industry without a license. You can't without a license, right? So, odds and ends jobs only do so much. Back then, some California laws were different about different places you can work and all that stuff, right? But I'm not making excuses. It just what it was, right?
Exactly.
And 6 months in, I got the feeling something was off, and it turned. One day I come home from one of my construction jobs, find her in bed with the dude and a chick.
Wow.
Yeah, and like in today's day and age, people are like, "Bro, are you into it?" No, no. I didn't know, and B, I wouldn't care if I did know. That's just wasn't really okay with that, right? And it turns out that she had been cheating on me almost the entire time we were in California. She I guess had been venting to some of her coworkers that took advantage of of that, I guess, and one thing led to another, as things do. And in all the repressed feelings of I wasn't good enough, I'm not valuable, all those things came back out, right?
I'm sure.
And it was really hard because we were both on that lease, and so I couldn't I didn't have the money to break the lease. I was stuck there for 2 more months, while our lease was working out. Luckily, it was a 2 bedroom apartment, so I was able to kind of move into that second bedroom. But without being graphic, those 2 months were not silent, and they were not pleasant. So it was hard, But then you hit the crossroads. The lease was up. I had to make a decision. Do I go back home to New Jersey, where my family and friends are? All the "I told you soers," all the "see, you should just come back here," people that you see, we knew you couldn't do it, or do I go back to Houston, where I know a handful of people, and I don't have any place to stay, but I know a handful of people, and still have no money. I mean, the good news is my licenses are still there, I guess. So, or do I stay in California, where I literally don't know a soul, and have no consistent income source, and so I made the decision to go back to Houston. And Andrew, this was January of 2018 that I made that decision, and I was homeless when I came back to Houston. I plugged back into my old work office, but nobody knew I was homeless. My family in New Jersey didn't know. My broker didn't know. None of my coworkers knew. Nobody knew. I was living out of my car, and um, here I am, a financial professional, financial advisor, planner that's homeless. Talk about it. That's bad, right? It's not good.
I mean,
no, I know you don't judge.
It comes from somewhere.
Yeah, but
passion comes from somewhere.
Right. And it was crazy. I had one suit jacket, 2 slacks, and one button down shirt. That's all I had, and so I would, roll into the parking garage at like 6 a.m. I had a key, right, which is good. Take like a little bum shower in the bathroom, and then dryer vent the clothes, and then get about my work day, and then at 10 o'clock at night would leave, and people would think I was going home. I would just pull out the parking garage, go hang out at Waffle House for an hour when I knew there was no one there, and then just pull back into the garage and sleep, and that was my life for like 5 months, four and a half, 5 months, because I wasn't great at sales. I couldn't close a door. I'm not that smooth talking, slick sales guy. I actually genuinely cared about people. So if what I offered didn't make sense, I wouldn't push it. Right. I also didn't know anyone. So I had to really grow it really from the ground up, just like I said, door knocking, and building relationships with people, which means that I couldn't focus on my problems. I had to focus on theirs.
Correct.
And started doing a little bit of recruiting, because we were trying to expand our office, and then I deal with my people's problems, not my own. Right. And but it took about 4.5 months, from zero to making enough money to get a place. And at the time, I was getting ready to make some decisions about what I was going to do. Am I going to stay in this business? Am I going to do something else? And there came a pivotal moment. My broker comes to me and says, "Hey, John, listen, we're having a big convention up in Cincinnati, and I think it would be great for you and for you and one of your teammates. Her name's Anna. She just had a baby. Shout out to my friend Anna, by the way. She just had a bit literally at 5:30 this morning. Her
literally
baby,
just
her baby Mackenzie was born. Her and her husband Nick. I'm just so elated for them. But her and I have basically done life together at this point. But I get emotional just thinking about it. Actually, talking about Anna, because her and I have literally been through so much together over the years. She didn't know I was homeless either. By the way, nobody knew. And meanwhile, every time all of us go out, I pay for, instead of putting gas in my vehicle, I pay for her dinner because she didn't have any money, or whatever it is. So we're getting ready to go to this convention in Cincinnati. The tickets are $100 each, but we have to get to Cincinnati. And I said, David, look, man, I don't know that I can go. I only got like $100 in the bank account. He goes, no worries, dude. If it's important, you'll figure it out. Like, again, remember, he didn't know my situation. If he did, there would have been a different conversation. And man, that hit me so hard. Because I wanted this more than anything. So I took my last $100. I won just a small little contest in the office. I got my ticket paid for. I used my last $100, to put some gas in my vehicle. And I threw Anna in my vehicle and one other guy in my vehicle, and we drove up to Cincinnati for this convention. They didn't know I had no money to get us back.
Wow.
None. And just blind faith going up to Cincinnati. And I had closed an insurance sale like 2 or 3 days beforehand. And I didn't understand even how our compensation worked back then. So I didn't know that I was going to get paid in a couple of days. I didn't know that. So I'm like literally freaking out. How the hell am I going to get these people back to Houston? But I said, all right, something will happen. They'll find a way. Right. So we go up to Cincinnati, and I thank God, Angela, thank God I chose to go, because at that convention, I met some people there that really inspired me to keep fighting. For what I wanted. I found my faith again. I had fallen so far from Jesus, and thank God that I found him again. And I also made peace with what had happened in my prior relationship there, and felt okay to start growing in that way again, right? Start dating again and whatnot. And funny enough, that Monday morning afterwards, I was gonna have to tell them, guys, like, I don't know how we're getting home. But I got a notification from my bank saying that I had a direct deposit received. I'm like, what the? Oh my goodness! I literally thank God at the time, and now I realize I just closed the sale a few days before, and I just happened to get paid from it. And so I was able to get us back. And they didn't know that story, by the way, for a very long time. I kept that inside for so long. But anyway, on the way back, driving from Cincinnati, which is like a 20-hour drive, I'm getting all these dings on my phone. Dings. And I was driving, so I didn't really pay attention to it. But when we get back to Houston, I'm looking at my phone, match. I'm like, what the hell is all this? And apparently my two agents who loved me, tremendously, and we're all very close to this day, they somehow got my phone from me. I don't know how they did, but they downloaded and made me a little Tinder profile.
Oh, wow.
And remember, I'm not a people person. And so if I'm not a people person, for business, stuff, I'm even less on that side of my life. Right. And they said, look, you don't have to, go out with anyone you don't want to, but just talk to somebody of the opposite sex, please. Like, just do it. And I said, all right, well, maybe, so anyway, couple days later, me and a few friends are out, having a couple of drinks, and I meet a few people, and just casual, like, hey, how you doing, kind of thing. It's very casual passing, not even shaking your hand, what's your name, kind of thing. Just very, hey, how you doing. And 2 days later, that girl and I match on Tinder. It's now my wife. Yeah, we met very casually, face to face, and like 2-3 days later, we match on Tinder. Yeah, and fast forward, we're now married. And let me tell you, my wife, and this is not just because we're married, and she probably will never listen to this. She might listen to this at some point, who knows? But like, this is not because she's my wife. She literally is a godsend, because she has been on this roller coaster. You own a business, you understand, and you work in real estate, you understand. She has been on this roller coaster with me since we met. I mean, I'm a random guy she matched with on Tinder. And I guess we both were looking for the same thing. We both weren't looking for a hookup. We were looking for a relationship. It's never been my thing, right? And apparently it's not been her thing either, which is great. We were both looking for a relationship. And, somebody had said this to me one time. They said, John, when you become the right guy, you're going to find the right girl. And that, I got really upset in the moment. I wanted to hit him because I just gotten out of that bad relationship. I didn't know what he meant. What he meant was, when you are working on becoming the best version of yourself, you're going to find a woman who's also growing into the best version of herself, and you're going to meet, and it's going to be great. And it's true. And so she's been with me, ride or die, on every up. And like, even for like, on our first date, again, hindsight being 2020, I didn't. I asked her if she wanted to go get some Italian food. Now in Houston, when you think Italian food, you think a nice restaurant, nice atmosphere, nice ambiance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in New Jersey, it's mom and pop stuff, right? So I didn't think anything of it. It's a terrible place. Now I'm not going to say the name of the place just because I don't want somebody crazy to hear this and then me get in trouble. But there's a place off of Westheimer and Gessner that used to be a lot better, quality and people, but now it's rough. But it was my favorite place to go get Italian food.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real hole in the wall place, Italian sports bar. They have really good food though. I just didn't think anything of it. Like if you go Google a picture of this place, I'll tell you it afterwards. It looks terrible. It looks so bad. Like you think, who takes somebody here on a first date, especially when you're trying to impress them? Like you'd be like, ladies, run. Like do not walk in there, And but she showed up, and now I know the owner, their clients. I knew all the servers, the bartenders are all clients. But I have relationships with them. I said, guys, look, what happened to me with that previous relationship. You've met her, you know everything that happened. I need your help. I have never dated anybody before in my life. I've always ever been in one relationship, and then 2 or 3 months later, I'm in a new one. So I've never dated before. I'm nervous as hell. I need your help. And they said, hey, we got you. Don't worry about it. They when you walk in, there's the left restaurant and the right restaurant with the bar in the middle. And they literally cleared out the entire right, and then they have a patio. They cleared out the whole right portion of the bar for me. Like there's no other tables there. I mean, there's physically tables there, but nobody else would be seated there. It literally had a little sign that said reserved for John Brucato. So when she got there, again, it looks rough, right? But they brought her over to me, and that whole night, we were supposed to have dinner and dessert, and then go for a walk in Buffalo Bayou Park, while it was light outside. But we ended up like vibing so well that we were there. We were there till like 10 o'clock.
Wow.
And again, I'm socially awkward. I didn't know anything about the dating. Like I didn't think about it. I said, well, hey, I know it's like super late, but I'm still down to go hang out at the park if you want to. And like you think about that, you're inviting somebody you just met to a park.
To dark, yeah.
At 10 o'clock at night. Right? I don't know what the hell compelled her to do this. But so we left and we both drove separately. So she said, okay, no problem, I'll meet you there. And we both leave to go to Buffalo Bayou. And she gets there. We were going to the police memorial because they have a really cool walkway and then the little tower thing. And so she got there, but I guess my GPS took me a different way, and I ended up getting stuck behind the Pride Parade. So I'm like going 2 miles an hour behind these people walking. And meanwhile, and again, I didn't know this was going on, but she was texting all of her friends like, "Hey, this is my location. If I die, like if I don't talk to you guys in an hour, like I'm dead. This guy's like I'm a skin mask, like all these different things." And then I call her. I'm like, "Hey, listen, I'm so sorry. I'll be there like in 5 minutes. I'm stuck behind the Pride Parade. Like this, you can't make this up. Like this is listen. Like here's a picture. Like and anyway, we were there till like 1 a.m. Like we walked around, we talked, just really, really, really vibed well, and I was able to actually schedule our second date before we had our first date because I won some Astros tickets. So I knew at least if I screwed up the first one, I had this because they're really nice seats for the Astros. So if I screwed up the first one, I'd have a second shot, right? But no, we hit it off really, really well. And literally on our first date, I uninstalled Tinder. I didn't even need it. Just like, all right, I'm good. I can take it from here, but we're okay, And she's been with me every all the ups because there's been plenty, but all the downs. This has been a lot. So she's amazing. But the last 5, 6, 7 years, have just been riding the business roller coaster, and when I'm a broker, right? So when you're a broker and you start to pour into people, some people accept that, some people slap you in the face, and some people listen. You've had relationships too, with people professionally and people personally, and some people you value more than they value you, and that is what it is. You don't treat the next person differently just because somebody else hurt you. I think that's a big problem with a lot of people is that they get hurt, they get wounded, whether it's in a previous relationship or like in a personal relationship or in a business relationship, and so they treat the next person like the last person left them.
They treat him with fear.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah.
Instead of open-hearted love.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like you can't, without me getting cliche here. The elevator to the next floor has got a weight limit, and when you carry around all that baggage, it weighs a lot. And so you have to leave some of that stuff behind if you want to get to that next level. That's why a lot of people get stuck. It's because they have wounds, or baggage that they're carrying that they just can't let go of.
hmm
And
How do they let go if they don't even know it exists?
yeah, well, I think a lot of people are stuck and they don't know why, and usually it's because they have baggage. They have things from their childhood that they haven't let go of, or they have things, from 2 months ago, whatever it might be, that they haven't let go of. You know,
So tell me, what does letting go of look like?
I can't say what it looks like for everybody, but
hmm
for me, it's kind of acknowledging that what happened happened. Acknowledging that I could have definitely done something differently, but also acknowledging that I have a chance to do something different next time. And it's very hard to do that, by the way. It's not an easy, it sounds so easy when you say it that way, but it's not. It's very, very, very hard. You
hmm
know, I one thing I didn't even talk about is I had my house burned down when I was 14. And I put up this cold exterior, when my sister really, really needed me. And I was there for her physically,
hmm
but you know, my dad is very tough. Not he's never hard on my sister and I. He's very warm with us, but he's very tough. I've never in my life, never, not once to this day, ever seen him cry. Ever.
hmm
Not that he doesn't. I'm sure he does, privately or to my mom. But um, so I thought I had to have that cold exterior. So when that moment happened, although I was physically there for my sister, I wasn't emotionally there for her. I just was like, all right, this happened. Let's. It is what it is. Let's see,
Yeah.
Or I've had instances in my business where I have a team member that went through something hard, and my response was, I'm sorry that happened, but let's move past it, right? Versus taking time to do this, which is just, hey, let's unpack this for a second.
hmm
Talk to me about what happened. How are you feeling? What are you doing to cope with it? What's going on? What can I do to be there for you, right?
hmm
So I think it's very hard to get to that point, but that's what I think letting go actually is. It's knowing what's happened and choosing to almost repeat. But it's like, what's the word? You know how people say that when you do the same thing over and over again, expect different results. It's like the definition of insanity,
hmm
right? I think letting go is being okay doing the same thing over again with a new person and expecting a different outcome. Like, okay, I dated somebody, they cheated on me. Instead of saying all people that I'm going to date in the future are going to cheat on me, it's okay, this is what happened. I probably could have, that nothing excuses the behavior.
hmm
I probably could have been a better spouse in these areas, but I'm going to date somebody else and I'm not going to worry about if they're going to cheat because they don't wear that guilt. They don't wear that crime. I'm accusing them
hmm
of something they haven't even done yet. And people wonder why they can't move on to the next relationship. Well, it's because, you're putting clothes on them that they shouldn't be wearing, you know?
hmm
It's a very hard thing to do.
Well, you're already labeling them.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. And I think it's the same thing in your business. When you say, well, I don't want to get, I don't want to get, I don't want to find more clients because my previous ones left me. So that's what they did.
hmm
You can let it go by saying that's what that person did, but the next person is going to be totally different.
Just keep doing it.
Just keep doing it.
hmm Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
and the encouragement, because it's letting go is literally that,
Yeah.
facing that, dealing with the emotions, the thoughts that come up with it, and then seeing how we can pivot because it's a choice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I definitely, and Angela, I know for a fact that I definitely, and can't name them off the top of my head, but I definitely still have wounds I haven't confronted. They're subconscious, right? Other people that really have known me for a long time could probably point it out to you like this, but I'll tell you, since being a father, my daughter's just about to be about a year and a half, just about a year and a half. Thinking of like knowing I'm gonna make mistakes, but being okay with that and just taking it day by day. Just want to set the best example for her that I can. So like it's like I'm okay, confronting those demons and letting go of those things so I can give her my best. Because if my best is key is me looking backwards, I can't give my best to her,
I love hearing that.
Yeah, she's amazing. I'll show you this video for this morning. So she was like she was like a little invalid, last Valentine's Day, but this is like her first Valentine's Day where she's like really like coherent. And so I wanted to make sure that I start programming her now to expect to be loved every day, of course, but really I wanted to show her some love today. So she had this little plushie thing, like she woke up to it. It was awesome. I'll show you the video later. But I think going through everything that I've gone through, and by the way, I've gone through nothing compared to some people, right? It's just my story, right? It's not harder or easier than anyone's, but going through what I've gone through, I definitely want to raise her to be tough, but I don't want her to have to go through some of the things that I went through. So
that's awesome. I do want to leave this reminder for parents, right, in general, that we can only do our best to guide our kids.
Yep.
It's not our job to protect them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and that's why I don't. I tell you, there's kind of a, maybe a not the story for the day, but I'm gonna say it anyway. We had Erin, that's my wife. She bought this package with a family photographer for a whole year. Gave her X amount of dollars, and then once a month we have a photo session as a family. So January was some professional ones. February was Valentine's, right? March it's going to be spring/Easter, whatever, and Gianna, that's my daughter. She's learning how to walk. She can stand on her own now with no problems. She could take about 15 or so steps and then kind of like fall and then get up and keep going. And Jenna, who's our photographer, hadn't seen her walk yet. I mean, she did her newborn photos. Like she's literally watched her as a little peanut. And so she was asking, can she walk? Can she walk? I'm like, yeah, let me just show you. And so we put her down and she was thirsty. So we gave her water. And so she went to go walk on the studio and then she fell. But the way she fell, her cup hit the concrete and the lid hit her lip. So she like busted up her lip and she was bleeding like crazy. And I'm not gonna lie, I was freaking out. Thank God that my wife is a teacher. I said I'm married to the hottest teacher in KDISD. Because she sees crazy shit like that all the time. She teaches third grade, so she sees a lot of stuff.
Sure.
She's a lot of stuff. And she's like, babe, it's fine. Just a little bit of blood. She's not dying. She don't need stitches. She's fine. But like, I'm freaking out, right? Because I mean, it's like it looks like it's gushing. I didn't realize that it's because it's from the mouth, like the saliva and everything. And what hit me, what hit my head is like, this is a good thing. Not it's a good thing that she's hurt, but it's a good thing that she took some steps and she got knocked down. But I mean, she got back up very quick and she cried for about 2 minutes, and then she was literally fine. And she even finished the photo shoot. And even though her lips swelled up a little bit, it was, I mean, barely. But she was laughing. I'll show you some of the photos. I wish I would have kept my phone with me. It's over there, but she was laughing and giggling the whole time. You'd never know that she'd fallen. And Jenna gave us the option. She said, hey, like when this all happened, she was freaking out too. She's like, hey, listen, if you need to reschedule the shoot, no problem. I understand. Like I won't charge you. It's fine. And in my head, I'm like, okay, we need to reschedule. We got to go get her to the doctor. Got to get her to the doctor. Got to get her to the doctor. And Erin was just, interestingly enough, that grounding, like, hey, she is okay. She does not need to go to the doctor. We can stay. And that was my guess parental instinct, fatherly instinct to protect And Erin was like, "Hey, it's okay. She's fine."
That's
And
awesome.
and yeah, sure enough, since that, and that was only 2 weeks ago, but since then, like we decided that when she falls, we're just gonna clap, and get her excited about keeping on, keeping on.
Yeah.
So small thing, but I agree with you. So my mind has shifted completely in 2 weeks on that. Not that we don't, get concerned about things,
Of
but
course.
but
It's how you react to it,
yes,
right?
yes,
So
yes.
based on your reaction, kids are just gonna maneuver based on our actions.
That's right. And not to make a plug for myself, but with that same mantra, I just posted on social media yesterday a picture of my daughter, actually, from her 1 years. But the post, I'm paraphrasing because it's not in front of me, said that the habits that you have as parents become your children's lessons. And I was implying, about money, but that's applicable about everything, right? Not
Yeah.
just your financial habits, but all your habits. Lessons are caught more than they're taught. And so your kids watch and they will learn.
Oh yeah. I'm still one of the kids who, with my mom, like, Mom, thank you for doing how you do, and you're reminding me to do the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what I said. There's a I don't know who said this to that point. I want to give him credit, but I don't know who said this. But one person said there's a story of two guys that had an alcoholic father, and one guy is one of those sons is a drunk, in and out of rehab, all these problems. The other one is a multimillionaire, very successful, a beautiful family of his own. And when they were interviewed about their situation, the guy that's also an alcoholic, in and out of jail, in and out of rehab, he says, "Well, man, of course I'm an alcoholic. I mean, my dad was an alcoholic." The other guy said, "I have so much success, I don't even drink because my dad was an alcoholic." So, lessons are caught, not taught. And what our parents do, or what we do as parents, our kids see it. And like you said, we guide them and they make their decisions. And you, like you said, have an example of maybe what not to do. And I see it, by the way. It's an amazing testimony. You have an awesome son. I can tell he's so sharp. I can just sense that about him.
Thank you.
And he's got great energy, and you do too. So I think it's great.
Well, thank you so much, John.
Yeah.
It's so great to hear your story finally.
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking. I don't really talk much about it. I almost feel awkward talking about it. So I don't really. Maybe it's the persona that I have for myself, or what people usually see. So it's not easy for me to do that, but I appreciate you letting me do that.
It's really awesome being able to see that side of you.
Yeah,
the humanness.
Yeah, I've been told I have to let that out more.
Yeah, it's helpful though.
Yeah,
because it makes a different kind of connection. It teaches our kids that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I will be putting your shout out on to the Instagram, and
Sure.
Yeah, anybody who wants to get some financial advice and guidance, well, I think they would benefit from talking to you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I hope they do. And by the way, and I'm doing this because I want more people to see your story too, because of how powerful it is. If you guys don't know, Angela was on my podcast too, and that episode, by the way, is dropping in about a week. So it's the Unleash Your Potential _ podcast. You can see